Okay, Matthew 13, and I want you to look at verse 24. Verse 24 to verse 52. It's a long text here. So you got your Bible and you got a piece of paper and you're looking. We're going to make a short outline, and so you're doing a study on the text, and you're just reading it to yourself. So Matthew 13, verse 24 to 52. And what I want you to be looking for is the truth and counterfeit. So, Matthew 13. It's up on the screen. Isn't it? Yeah. On the screen you see the text, and the main point of this portion is that Jesus is saying, the prophet prophesying about Jesus, that in verse 35, that it might be fulfilled, that he will teach in parables, that the things that have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. So these parables are very, very highly honored. These parables have great value to them and meaning to them. And what is the primary point in these parables? In a word, anybody want to say? What's he saying in these parables? There's a thread that goes through the parables. Kingdom, okay. There is a kingdom, and then there is the enemy that is bringing in the counterfeit. So you see here at verse, is it 25? But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. This is a leadership class, and we're really talking about a believer having in his life an authority that is larger than his circumstances and his personality. Last night we talked about a man living this way. Do you remember this? If you were here, the man is trying to manage and control his life in these horizontals, and he says, if I could get some money, I will solve this problem. If I talk to that person, I will win their favor. If I avoid that person, I will stay away from that. And this is a way of life for the average person. But Jesus was different, because he had his spiritual life with his Father, and his will was one with his Father, and he could see. And we said the word in the Greek, blepo, is that he could comprehend. This is in John 5:19-20. I always do the things that I see my Father do, like he was understanding and seeing things in a spiritual way. And in the same way in our life, this is what Paul is promising us, Holy Spirit is, through his writing, that we would comprehend the breadth and the length and the height and depth of God's love, And God would also give us the spirit of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of him. Connected with this is these. So these are two models for a living. And you know, in my meditation yesterday morning, I was thinking about this one and how so many people live this way. And they wonder sometimes why life is not working for them, because they think of life in terms of success in this way. But when you are spiritually minded, you think of it a different way. And that is, that's a lie, and this is the truth. And if I have the truth, it's something that you actually love. It has an effect on you. Like truth, when you know it, it sets you free. John 8:36. If you continue in it, you are a disciple. John 8:32. And it is spiritually imparted to your heart. And this is why when you go to Bible college and you live a life and you learn how to live in faith and receive the message in your heart and fellowship with God in it, it has a great effect on your life. And this automatically makes you a minister. And that's really what a servant leader is somebody that has the authority to minister. You're able to minister because of the life that you have. A great example is in Numbers chapter 16 was the conspiracy against Moses, and 17 was the almond rod that budded. Almond rod budded miraculously. And this is resurrection life with the man that God is with, that God honors you. When God honors you, you are honored. God honors you, and this is your authority. Watch. Enemy is cast out in front of you. You know that's your enemy. You're able to destroy the lie by living in the truth. And you just say, that's not, I'm not interested in that. I have the truth. Just like China is in Latin America. Like, I'm not interested in that. I have the truth, And this is where you live. And this makes your world larger. And this is in Psalm 18. God has set my feet in a large room. And now your wisdom, your love, your faith, your words have an effect on the people you're with. Your peace, your quietness, you're like David in the Bible, where you see David really succeeding because he's a man of God who's embracing the truth. Psalm 101 is a good psalm for you to read. 101 and meditate on. It's a beautiful psalm of how the lie is avoided, the lie is denounced, the lie is not embraced. And in these parables that we're reading, we see the truth, and then we see the lie come along, move into the picture. We see it in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, and then the serpent came into the picture. Christ is born in Bethlehem, and then the serpent comes to the mind of Herod, and I'm going to kill him. You always, whenever you see God moving, you also see the devil moving also. And these parables spoken by Jesus is communicating this principle, that I have a counterfeit, because the best way for me to neutralize God's people is to lie to them. And if they will believe a lie, then I have them under my lie, and I, neutralize or minimize their influence. And, when you live in victory, now you say, I could live anywhere in the world because I have the truth in my heart. I could be a friend to anybody because I have the truth in my heart. I could experience any number of things in my life because I have the truth in my heart. Isn't that amazing? Now, many of you know Pastor Hadley. John Hadley, many of you know him. No, let me say it again. Many of you know him. No, wait, no. I'm not asking if you know him. I know many of you know him. Okay, okay. All right, so listen. Seriously, he had a beautiful daughter, Christina. And she was, like just a great girl. And surprisingly, the Lord took her home in a car accident. And to any dad, it's the nightmare you don't want to live through. It's a terrible thing to lose a daughter or a child. And he told me that he had a little place at home where he would go, and he would listen to God, talk to God. He would cry, worship, listen to God. And he said, God led me through that. It's amazing. God was real for me, and he led me through that period, That's just what I want to hear. Because when you suffer and you're hurting, this is a very good time for the liars to be hiding out and to neutralize your influence and remove you from a life of hearing from God, listening to God, following God, and worshiping God. And this is important because these parables, it said that things that you are hearing by parable have been hidden from the beginning of the world. But now Jesus is telling us these very important lessons. And it is really that God is working, and then also the next thing. So here it is, verse 31. The kingdom of heaven is like to a grain of mustard seed, which a man took, sowed in the field, which indeed is the least of all the seeds. When it grows, is the greatest herbs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches. Birds in the Bible are clean birds and unclean birds. We don't know these are Baltimore ravens. But Pastor Andalonis doesn't like the fact that they're probably Baltimore ravens, but I've studied this in the Greek. They are Baltimore ravens. Okay. And the Buckley family knows they're not the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. The enemy comes into the church. The church has grown. First, it's a seed. Then it grows into a small plant. Now it is stronger. It's a tree. And in church history, the church was more frail, but still true. Now it is more stable, but it's still invaded by the enemy. Then 33, another parable, the third one. The kingdom of heaven is like unto leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal till the whole was leavened. Again, contamination and the effect of the leaven in the meal, the false teaching, the false doctrine. This is why there are so many different periods in church history, and also why we are interested in recognizing the lie, the error, the counterfeit. Then he explains the one parable, 37 to 43. Then he goes to a different one, verse 44. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hid in a field, which when a man is found, he hides for joy and sells all that he has and buys that field. Then the pearls, and he sells all that he has. Both parables, one is a treasure hid in a field, and the other one is a pearl in the mall. What's the difference between a treasure hid in the field and the pearl in the mall? One is hid, you can't see it, and the other one is out in the open. But out in the open, Monet, remember I read about a man who bought in a yard sale a classical piece of artwork. I've also heard of other stories too, but the point is, valuable, hidden, valuable, not recognized. Valuable, hidden, valuable, but not discerned, not recognized as a pearl of great price. But the guy knows it is valuable. And he goes and sells all that he has, and he goes and he buys the Monet over here on Park Street, that's thrown in that's from the garage. And that's another good story here. So then, there is one more, I believe, here. It's verse 47. Yeah, the good fish and the bad fish. All of these parables are just saying to us, Jesus is saying, and he says it many times in the scripture, I really need you to be awake, to be alert, and to know, to recognize and discern. And when your enemy is thrown out in front of you, you deal with that. And love is not love. It lies. There are many ideas about love that is not true. It's a lie. There are ideas about religion that are lies. That was on the plane flying with a man next to me, not a believer. But I know that he believed a lot of things about religion, about Christianity, that were just not true, And maybe he wanted to believe them. So I asked him the big question. I'll share it with you. Two things I said to him. Number one, ships in the sea. I said, could I tell you an analogy, and could you think about this and answer me? There's a fleet of ships in the sea, and there's three things to learn about them. Number one, they do not run into each other. Do not run into each other. We learn that in school. If the ships are like people, we learn to be kind to each other and not run into each other. And I said, would you agree? You agree with that? He said, yes. I said, the second thing in school that you learn is to take care of your boat. Take care of your boat that doesn't sink. Take care of your boat or ship. Brush your teeth. Eat your vitamins. Okay, clean the deck. Keep your boat ship shape, that it doesn't sink. We learn this in school. But there's one thing about the fleet that you are never taught in school. And he said, what is that? I said, why does it exist? Why are the ships on the sea? What are we doing? What is our mission? Where are we going? We just learn, don't bump into each other, don't destroy each other, and keep your ship from sinking. But we never learn, what are we doing? What is the point? Why do we exist? What is our mission? And if we compare this to the human race, we learn in school the two things, but not the third thing. And the third is really the first thing. What's the meaning in life? And he said, it's correct, we don't learn that. Because we don't know the answer. So we don't even bring it up in our education. What does life mean? We don't know. So we don't teach it. And we don't even ask the question. But I'm asking you the question, what does life mean? And he's an elderly man, and he's, thinking about it. Second thing I said to him was, if God is behind that curtain, we're on an airplane, God is behind that curtain, and he called for you, would you go meet him? And there's silence for a couple hours. And he said, I don't know. I said, well, thanks for being honest about it. You don't know if you really want to meet God. But isn't that interesting? If God was behind the curtain and he's calling you, and he wants to meet you, he wants to know you, he wants a face-to-face, do you have the courage to go meet him? Maybe not, because you're afraid of him, or you don't want your life to be changed. Because if you meet God, that might happen. That's how our conversation ended, and it was very quiet the rest of the trip. I was trying to figure out how to silence him, and I did. No, not really. He was very gracious and pleasant to be with, and we did talk, but that was how. And I'm just praying that man would, this was when Monday, it's now Thursday, and I'm just praying about every day for him, that these words would just go right to his heart, and he'd think about it. Because he just buried his mother in England, and he just realized that, he's facing some, he's getting to be time. He's going to go too pretty soon. Okay, the truth and the lie. So this is our theme today. This is what we're talking about, truth and the counterfeit. And we've covered it, Matthew 13. We talked about Deuteronomy 33. We have one more piece to look at very shortly. It'll take about 5 minutes. But before we do, would you talk to your neighbor and just say, what has this class been about tonight? About truth and lies, and what have you gotten out of it? All right, just do a brief discussion with your neighbor. How many of you have had a good conversation? Did you have a good one? Down here, it was awesome. I thought I was in heaven when I was over here talking to Garvey and James. That was amazing. Okay, here's a couple points. Did you say, I'd love to hear you guys talk about it, because I know you would have a lot to say, but we don't have a lot of time. Okay, the pearl of great price is out in the open, but you don't recognize it. And that would be like our church here. People are driving by, but they don't recognize the value of the church. Jesus is in Israel, Galilee, but they don't walk across the street to see him. They don't even recognize his importance, Across the street from where we live, there's some people that just live there, and this is nothing. Like, they look over across the street and they see this parking lot, and they don't recognize. So we're talking about how easy it is to live in a world with a lot of lies. And Garvey mentioned the man that he met who was into alcohol. He was very depressed. He had lost 3 children in a fire, had gone to a church. He didn't have his needs met, was troubled, wounded. And what about that? And that was actually the third portion we wanted to go to, is Job. And how easy it would be to be disappointed in life and the projections, the lies that come to you. You know, you are not loved. You are no good. How about this? A young man in Baltimore City, you know, you're going to do drugs. You have no future. You're going to be, you know, what is your life? These are lies that are projected upon the minds of people. And even, not only are they negative things, but discouraging things, hurtful things, they are tares that come and are planted next to the wheat. Wheat, tare. Tare, wheat, tare, wheat, tare, wheat, tare, wheat, tare, wheat. The devil is not afraid. A tree is planted, the birds come. Not afraid to park right in the church, to park right in a marriage, to park right into a friendship. And for this to be like the way we are living, and to recognize, watch, your enemies will be thrown out in front of you, and you will identify them and say, not going to happen. I don't believe that. I am, what did you say, James? You say saturated. Was it saturated? Saturated with the truth. And this increases our discernment and recognizing that which is precious and valuable. Are those kind of the things that you were talking about in your conversations here? Were they? Don't lie to me. No, I'm joking. Now, were those the things that you were saying? Huh? So you're very careful to answer me. Are you afraid of me? No. Okay. The last thing, we have just a few minutes. Job. Turn with me. This will be your homework assignment. You've got to read. If you've never read this part of the Bible before, you've got to read it. What part am I talking about? Job chapters 1 and 2. Chapters 1 and 2. The best part of the book of Job, chapters 1 and 2, and chapter, there's the first best part and the second best part. The best part, chapters 1 and 2, and chapter 42. Read the beginning of Job and the end of Job, okay? And here is the point. When you suffer, you're very vulnerable to lies. When you're hurting, that's when you're very vulnerable to believe a lie. God doesn't love me anymore. You know, why has this happened? I am being judged. I am afraid. I wish I had never been born. Job said that in chapter 3. Don't read that part. No, I'm joking. Okay, Job. He was very depressed, very hurt as a man. It's one thing to lose one child or two is incredible. 3 or 4 would be beyond bearing, but to lose 10 children is absolutely unimaginable. And this is the kind of pain he had, and he was a man of God. This is the point of the book, is that suffering is a part of life for us. But it does not mean that God is against you. On the contrary, it means he is for you. And he is building a treasure in you that will be eternal. And you have great value. But how to discern truth from counterfeit when you're suffering is a very important part of your life. And this is what produces leaders. Like, not leaders in the sense of the door, the pastor's door with the brass plate on it that says pastor. I don't mean that. That's not leadership. Leadership is when everything is bad, but you're believing the truth. Leadership is when everything is against you, but God is not against you and you know it. Leadership is when you embrace truth, love truth all your life. Embrace it, take it, believe it, love it, rejoice in it. There you go. You have an amazing character and a lot of influence on people. And that's who you are. You are those people. That's who you and I are, because we're born again, children of God. God did not make us to be wimpy, deceived, misled, whining, hurting, regretting, pessimistic, ashamed, guilty, and afraid. God made us to be, all those things do happen, but over the long period, no. That's not our frame of reference. That's not our mindset. We have been promoted by God to tread upon the high places of the liars and have victory over them. No, China is not in Latin America. That's very funny. China is in Latin America. It is ridiculous, and I don't even pay attention to it because that lie is so stupid. But beware. There are better lies. There are powerful projections that would take you out and minimize the value of your life. The truth means a lot to us, and we love it and embrace it. Okay? Your assignment is to read Job chapters 1 and 2 and Job 42, and write on a piece of paper a few Bible verses, carry them around in your pocket, pull them out, and read them during the week, and I'll see you back here next week. You're dismissed.